Greetings and welcome to another Impressions video here at Words About Games, and today we're going to be looking at the Hex. I should probably have been less surprised than I was that the Hex is one of the weirdest, trippiest, most creative games of 2018. I've played Pony Island, the excellently weird game that Daniel Mullins made previous to this one. Even armed with the knowledge that the Hex would be a very unique experience, it still managed to blow my expectations completely out of the water. The premise alone is bonkers. The Hex is set in the Six Pint Inn, an old rundown tavern whose patrons are old video game protagonists trying to escape their past. As a storm blows outside, the barkeep receives a phone call. Someone at the inn is planning a murder that very night. As you play and try to uncover the identity of the would-be murderer and their intended victim, you'll control each of the inn's customers, finding out what led them to the Six Pint Inn through a series of flashbacks to their days as video game protagonists. Each flashback will take you through a variety of completely different gaming genres as you slowly uncover everyone's secrets. And that's all I want to tell you about the Hex. Going into this game as blind as possible will lead you to have the best possible experience with the game. If you're already intrigued by what I've described, know that this is absolutely worth your time as one of the most engrossing, unique gaming experiences of the year. Don't go any further into this review and simply go and get the game and see it for yourself. If you're still on the fence, stick around and I'll try to break down what makes the Hex so special without ruining the experience for you. Of course, that's a foolish premise. It'd be impossible to tell you exactly why this is a standout gem of 2018 without telling you everything you shouldn't know before playing. A huge part of what makes the Hex so compelling is in the game's narrative, its characters, the gripping twists and turns it takes, and the constant ways in which it undermines your expectations. It's a game with endless reservoirs of creativity that manages to constantly shift gears, deconstructing itself over and over again while still somehow feeling like one consistent whole. It's also incredibly weird, will constantly surprise you, and tears down the fourth wall with regularity. And it's packed full of secrets to unearth. Even after rolling credits, I was eagerly ready to devour the Steam forum discussions on the game and dive right back in to pick the Hex apart, looking for every secret that the game holds. Which is a fancy way of saying you definitely won't see everything in your first playthrough, and there are a world of possibilities in this game that you won't even be aware of until you've finished it. And I use the term finished very loosely. That's all I can really say about the Hex's narrative. I've rewritten those paragraphs constantly, worried that I'm saying too much. Hopefully I've hit a good balance between explaining why you need to play this game and keeping as much of the mystery alive as possible in the process. Hell, if I outright told you what I know about what's going on in the Hex, you probably wouldn't believe me anyway. Instead, I'm going to turn my attention to the gameplay. As you've probably surmised from watching the game footage playing over this audio, the Hex is made up of many different game genres. The game is structured around a simple 2D adventure. That's how the game starts. After the chilling initial phone call, you'll take control of Super Weasel Kid, who's sent to retrieve a key by the barkeep. You can explore the inn, though much of it is locked off until later in the story, and interact with your fellow former video game protagonists. At a certain point, you'll trigger a flashback, which will send you to Super Weasel Kid's titular game, a bright, happy 2D platformer. Naturally, things take a turn as you keep playing, and no, I'm not saying anything, but it marks a direct shift in the Hex's core gameplay, which is definitely not its last. As you take control of each of the game's characters, you'll flip between a fighting game, a JRPG, a cooking game, a battle royale, a top-down shooter, a tactics RPG, and so much more, including some mashups of multiple genres. It's to the game's eternal credit that all of these very different gameplay styles mesh together really well. None of these gameplay switches are fully fleshed out versions of their particular genre, of course. That would make the Hex incredibly convoluted and far too complicated to actually play. Instead, each new gameplay type that you come across is a more simplified version of the genre they represent. You won't be grinding for hours to level up in the JRPG section, for example, or playing through multiple challenging encounters in the tactics section. The Hex is just challenging enough to keep you engaged, with each section being simple enough not to slow down the pace of the game and teach you dozens of new mechanics every 40 minutes or so. All the controls in the game literally boil down to WASD and the left click on the mouse. If you're looking for a deep challenge in the Hex, you won't find it, in the gameplay at least. Which actually works in the game's favour, as everything flows together really well, and each section is just long enough that it doesn't overstay its welcome before you're sent back to the inn. There's so much more I could tell you about the Hex, but anything else I feel like I could say to convince you that this game is definitely worthy of your time would lessen your experience. This is a game I've been constantly thinking about since I hit the credits, and one I want to keep digging into to see what surprises it still has left in store for me. I came into this expecting a clever mashup of a variety of different game genres stitched together by a murder mystery, and quickly had those expectations blown away by one of the smartest, most inventive games that's been released in 2018. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. If you've enjoyed it, please keep it here at Words About Games. We've got tons of content, including our weekly podcast, more impressions videos, patch notes, and our weekly indie game of the week. We also stream over on Twitch at twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. And most importantly, have a great day.